profits and loss for oligopolies and the non-price competition strategies. So oligopoly as a market structure. So this market structure exists where there are few large firms and many buyers. So this market is having few large firms and many buyers. If we say few large firms, we mean there are firms that are existing, but there are not many as in perfect market. There are few. What causes these firms to be few is the fact that there's a large capital requirement required for the firms to enter the market. The capital requirement of startup costs become the barrier to entry that can prohibit the entry of small businesses or new businesses. So normally large firms are the ones that are always having much capital to enter the market. There are smaller businesses, but they don't have much control or much influence over the market because they have less market share. Small number of firms dominate the market. So oligopoly firm can influence the supply of the product or service to the market. By controlling the supply of the product or service on the market, oligopolies aim to keep prices and profits high. So oligopolies function in this way. They always ensure that they have a dominant control over the market so that they will always keep their prices very, very high to keep up with their profits. So to do that, they ensure that they have cartels or they are involved in kinds of collusion or price leadership so that they can keep their prices high and then keep their profits high also. So once firms get together to become a single firm or they collude maybe through implicit or explicit, they always have dominant position over the market to the point that they can influence everything such as pricing and the production techniques within the market. If the market is dominated by two firms, it is regarded as a duopoly, meaning if ever in your exam you come across the question asking you about the duopoly, means the market structure that is dominated by two firms. So that's a duopoly. The types of oligopolies are as follows. So we have pure oligopoly as well as homogeneous oligopoly. I mean, we have pure oligopoly as well as differentiated oligopoly. So if we talk of pure oligopoly, we mean oligopoly is market structure that produces homogeneous or identical products. We call that one a pure oligopoly. It produces homogeneous products. And then we have a differentiated oligopoly, which is an oligopoly that produces differentiated products. So pure oligopoly is the oligopoly that produces homogeneous product or services. And then differentiated oligopoly. Differentiated oligopoly is the oligopoly that produces differentiated products. Remember, if we talk of homogeneous products, we refer to products that are similar to each other without any slight difference. And those products are known to be identical. And they are perfect substitutes for each other because they satisfy the same utility. That is a part of what we call the pure oligopoly and homogeneous product. If we talk about differentiated products, we refer to products that look similar and they satisfy the same utility. However, those products are having a slight difference in terms of branding. They are not the same in terms of branding. Packaging is not only the same. So those are some of the things that make the product to be differ from those of the competitors. Different firms produce goods that have their own distinguishing characteristics, yet all of them are close substitute to each other. So different firms will be producing goods that are not similar to each other, they are different. But those goods are also substituting each other, they are perfect substitutes for each other because they are used to satisfy the same utility. That is done when the firm is producing, when the firm is regarded as a part of differentiated oligopoly. Examples of oligopolies include the following. The banking industry is one of those industries that are under oligopoly. Steel industry, washing powder industry, motoring industry, cell phone industry are the part of oligopoly's market structure. Then we continue with the cement industry, fuel industry, milk industry, and fertilizer industry. So these are industries that are within the oligopoly. Then we have characteristics. How do we see oligopoly? Firstly, remember we mentioned at the beginning that it is the market structure that exists where there are few large firms and many players. Under oligopoly, we have few large firms due to the fact that the market is not really accessible and there's a high capital requirement for firms to enter the market. So new firms are restricted by capital from entering the market. Also, patents also play a part to prohibit firms from entering the market as a barrier to entry. And then we also have the situation of there are barriers to entry. barriers to entry do exist to block the entry of new businesses. The market is not completely blocked like in the monopoly, but the market is not freely accessible also like in the perfect market. There are some barriers to entry that exist to block the entry of new businesses. For instance, we can talk about the existence of patents within this kind of the market. The government intervenes by setting some laws and bylaws through legislation to protect some industries that are very much strategic for the country. Also, some barriers to entry do exist also that are artificial also. We talk about patents or ownership of a particular natural resource. And then we talk about the barrier to entry such as high capital requirement. If ever in the particular industry there should be more capital for the firm to enter the market, then it will be difficult for new firm to enter that particular market because there is more capital that is required for the firm to enter the market. And then also, in terms of decision making, firms in this market are very much interdependent. They are dependent to each other. Decisions by one firm will always affect decisions to be made by another firm. For instance, if one firm under oligopoly is making a profitable decision, other firms will find it being a threat to them, because if one firm is making a profitable decision, that means the other firms will be losing their consumers to this firm that is making a good or profitable decision. Therefore, firms become very much interdependent to one another. If one firm is making a good decision for the profit, other firms will happen to copy that particular decision or to copy the strategy. So in that case, we say there is a collusion. Firms are very much interdependent to one another in terms of decision making, because decision by one firm will always affect decision to be made by other firms under the pure oligopoly or even differentiated oligopoly. So collusion do exist under oligopoly. As much as collusion is illegal, but it does happen under oligopoly, whereby firms can collude either implicitly or explicitly, or firms can collude through the price leadership or the cartels. If we talk about the implicit collusion, we refer to the collusion that occurs without any formal agreement between firms. Firms copy each other's strategies without any formal agreement or discussion. What you call it, this kind of the collusion, implicit, cannot be traced. It cannot be traced. So in that case, if it cannot be traced, we say then it's an implicit collusion or hidden collusion. And then we have an explicit collusion. If we talk of an explicit collusion, we refer to the collusion that occurs when there's a formal agreement between two or more firms where they discuss price fixing as well as production techniques. So if that one occurs, it can be proven. The explicit collusion is also called an overt collusion, while implicit collusion is also called a tacit or hidden collusion. So implicit is an overt collusion. It occurs under the price, under the cartels. What is meant by the cartel? The cartel is the association or group of firms within the same industry where they discuss pricing and production techniques. And then the implicit collusion occurs under the price leadership. The price leadership occurs when one firm in this particular industry set the prices on behalf of all other industries, all other firms within the industry. So one firm will set the price, other firms will copy the price. So normally it goes together with the dominant firm. If we talk of the dominant firm, we refer to the firm that is having at least 32% market share within the industry. The firm that is having more market share than any other firm within the industry is known to be a dominant firm. Then what is meant by the price leader? A price leader is the firm within the industry that is capable of making profitable decisions than any other firm within the industry. So it can be a firm that is having more market share within the industry, or it can be a firm that is able to make proper decisions in terms of market signals within the industry. The firm that can be a dominant firm cannot always, that can be a price leader, cannot always be a dominant firm, cannot always be a firm that can understand very well market signals, but it depends. A smaller firm, which is the minor in the industry, can be able to study market signals very, very well than any other firm, and that firm can be named as a price leader. Or a firm with more than 32% market share or more consumers within the market can also be named as a price leader. So that also contributes to the collusion, because the price leadership is a part of implicit collusion, whereby there is no formal agreement or formal discussion, but each firm will copy other competitor strategies to avoid losing its market shares. And then the explicit collusion is a part of the cartels, where there is a formal, there's an association of firms where they discuss and agree upon pricing and production techniques within the industry. And then we also continue here on the characteristics. of the oligopoly. So efficiencies are not highly achieved under oligopoly. Because one firm cannot afford to supply the entire market with goods and services. So allocative inefficiency and productive inefficiency do exist under the oligopoly market structure. And then the demand curve for the firm under oligopoly is kinked, meaning this demand curve is downward sloping. However, it is having two segments. These segments are differentiated into two. The first one is a top segment, bottom one is a bottom segment. The top segment is regarded to be relatively elastic. Why is this demand curve elastic? It is elastic because under oligopolists, remember, they sell goods based on collusive price. But if one firm decides to sell the product above the collusive price, that will mean other competitors maybe are not decreasing their price. Are not increasing their price. That will lead to competitors not increasing their prices, resulting to the firm then losing its market share. So that creates a top segment which is relatively elastic, because if one firm sells the product at the higher cost while other firms are still selling the product at the lower cost, that will mean consumers will be declining. They will be buying from alternating supplier or alternating firm within the industry. Then we also have what we call it the bottom segment. If we talk of the bottom segment, we talk about the downward part of the kinked demand curve after collusive price, which then indicates that if ever one firm under oligopolies lower the price, firms are very much interdependent. Other competitors will do the same by lowering their price to avoid losing their market shares. By doing so, any expected profit or gain by initial firm that lowered the price will be lost immediately. Why? Because all other firms have decided to lower their prices from top to the lower price. So any expected profit or gain will be lost immediately by the firm that initially lowered the price, because all firms in the market are selling their goods at the lower cost. So let's look at these characteristics of the oligopoly. There is the limited competition. There is competition. However, it is limited because there are few firms that are existing in the market. Unlike in the perfect market, there's a high level of competition. Unlike in the monopoly, there is no competition. Under oligopoly, there is competition, but it is limited. So only few large sellers of the same product dominate the market. Usually, there are few big firms that dominate the market, plus a number of smaller firms, which together produce a small percentage of total output. The market competition is not as wide as in perfect market, because high capital requirement become the stumbling block or barrier to entry for smaller firms to enter the market. So it becomes more difficult for smaller firms to access the market because of what? Because of high capital requirement, which becomes a barrier to entry. Mutual interdependence. Interdependent means that actions by one firm affect actions to be taken by other firms. That means that firms are very much dependent to one another based on decision making. Each seller is influenced by the actions of other sellers. If one seller is setting a particular price, other firms will be influenced. Let's say if one seller in the same industry lowers the price, that will affect other firms, because they will be losing their consumers if those firms are selling the similar product or maybe differentiated product. So firms have to act upon that to avoid losing their consumers or market share. Decisions of one seller will influence the decision that other sellers will be making within the industry. The decision regarding pricing, quantities, and marketing depends on what it thinks the other oligopolies in the market is going to do in response to his or her reaction. Competitors may react in many ways to a price reduction by the competitor. If one firm can lower the price, others can also lower the price, but others can try to bring about other promotions to ensure that they don't lose their consumers to the competitor that has just lowered the price. We continue with the mutual dependency. A firm considers the action and the reaction of the rival firms while determining its prices and output levels. So firms are always dependent to one another. So they always watch very close on each other on what decisions will be made. If one firm is making a decision that is the most profitable, then other firms will also work on that by deciding to ensure that they use the strategy that will make them not to lose their market share and not to lose their profit, to maintain their consumers and also maintain their high profit. A change in the output or price by one firm evokes reaction for other firms operating in the market. If ever one firm decides to change the price in the particular market, that will result to a reaction by competitors. They will react to that price by maybe lowering their prices or bringing about new strategies for marketing, and also ensuring that there are new promotions that will keep their consumers within the market so that they won't be losing them. It is therefore impossible to formulate a single theory for price and production decisions. So it is not easy for us to formulate one way in which other firms can react on if ever one firm is setting the price either higher or lower. The general behavior of oligopoly is not predictable, so it is very hard to predict how other oligopoly firms will behave. If one firm is setting the price or changing the production techniques, other firms might not follow, other firms might follow, it depends. That's why it is highly unpredictable to do what? To guess what will the oligopoly firm do in reaction to the change in price or production techniques by the competitors. High barriers to entry. So the market entry is not completely free. There are some barriers to entry that exist to block the entry of new businesses. The market is not really accessible like in the perfect market and monopolistic competition. However, this one is having some barriers to entry that can be natural and artificial. The main reason for few firms under oligopoly is the barriers which prevent the entry of new firms into the market. These barriers that are there, they prohibit the entry of new businesses, resulting to existing firms remaining as main firms that are supplying the particular product, and they can even dominate the market because sometimes they can be part of cartels, which will give them more power to exploit consumers through price fixing. Barriers to entry can be natural and artificial. Yes, barriers to entry can be natural and artificial. Remember, if we talk of barriers to entry, we refer to barriers to entry that are economic in nature, while artificial barriers to entry are those that are not economic in nature. Example of barriers to entry can be economies of scale. That's a barrier to entry which is naturally. And then example of artificial barrier to entry can be patents or licenses or exclusive rights that are given to businesses to be the main or only suppliers of a particular product within the market. Patent requirements of large capital control over the crucial raw materials and brand loyalty are some reasons which prevent the new firms from entering the market. So if ever the firm is faced by the barrier to entry, which is a large capital requirement, it cannot enter the market if it doesn't have enough money to enter the market. And then control over a crucial raw material. If ever the raw material is controlled by the particular firm, then it prohibits other firms from entering the market to compete because they don't have access of that particular natural resource. Brand loyalty. Once consumers develop the brand loyalty, it becomes very difficult for other firms to enter the market because they see that particular product produced by a certain firm as the one that is very much crucial, as the one that is very much unique, as the one that is very much superior than those of the competitors. So the brand loyalty results to consumers seeing the alternating product as inferior while they see this other product as a superior product because of the brand loyalty. This results to few firms dominating the industry, which help them to maintain high profit. So if ever then these barriers to entry exist, they result to few firms dominating the industry, which can lead to them getting even as high as possible profits instead of sharing their profits or their consumers to smaller firms or other firms in the industry. Homogeneous and differentiated products. Remember, we said pure oligopoly produces homogeneous product. If we talk about homogeneous product, we refer to products that are similar to each other and they satisfy the same utility. Those are products that are perfect substitute for each other. So they are very much same or identical to one another. They are produced by what we call a pure oligopoly. Product can also be differentiated. So if we talk about differentiated product, we can refer to cell phone industry. We have a cell phone industry with different firms that are selling cell phones, but those phones are not similar, but they satisfy the same utility and they are also perfect substitutes for each other because they can be used for the same purpose. Different products are produced by differentiated oligopolies. If ever the firm is producing differentiated products, it is regarded as what we call differentiated oligopolies. Where the products are differentiated or homogeneous, they will be substituted for each other. Yes, these products can be substituted for each other even if they are differentiated or they are homogeneous. For instance, we talk about motor vehicles. You can take one brand and compare to another brand. Those products can be differentiated. They can be used to, they can be substituted to one another because as much as that differentiated by they satisfy the same utility. The firm is a price setter. So under oligopoly, firms are having considerable control or influence over the price, especially when they are involved in joint decision making. So each firm under oligopoly is having a control over the price. For instance, you can be a new firm in the industry. As you enter the market, you enter with the individual price, but you get there and choose to use what you call the collusive price. By using collusive price, that means you have a control or influence over the price. Also, if ever firms are involved in price leadership or the cartels that allow them to be the part of the association under cartels, where each firm will have a say over the pricing and production techniques. So that's why we say firms are the price setters, because they have influence. Even if the firm copy each other's strategies under implicit collusion, that means the firm is still having a control or say over the price. Because if the firm doesn't want to increase the price, it can keep the price down. If it doesn't want to decrease the price, it can keep the price up. So firms are having the influence over the price. This will result to abnormally high prices and profit. So with oligopoly being, in this case, setting their own prices, that can lead to abnormal profits or supernormal profits, as well as what we call high prices that will be set in the market for firms to maintain their high profits. Oligopolies are characterized by price rigidity, because if one firm decreases his prices, competitors will also decrease their price. Therefore, they decide not to compete over the price, but they use the non-price competition strategies to compete. They sell the product at the same price in most cases. However, they will be using non-price competition strategies to compete with one another effectively. A price decrease by one firm can initiate a price war. So, if ever one firm under oligopoly lower the price, firms will always also do the same. They can lower their prices to avoid losing their market share or consumers to the firm that has lowered the price. So that will lead to the price war within the oligopolist industry. Incomplete market information. Under oligopoly, market is not perfect, it is not complete. I mean, information is not complete or incomplete. That will always lead to what? It will lead to consumers making uninformed decisions, because they don't have enough information for them to make well-informed decisions. So decisions under perfect market are incomplete or imperfect. So under oligopoly alone, we talk about the information. Our information is totally incomplete. Why we say it's incomplete? Consumers are not fully informed about what happens in different businesses within the industry. Each business will be using its own information to ensure that it gains more market share or profit. It doesn't share its information to competitors, because competitors can use this information to benefit themselves so that they get more sales or more consumers. So each and every business is using information as a treasure to attract more consumers, than sharing that information to the competitors. So we say under oligopoly, there's an imperfect or incomplete information. Consumers are not fully informed about the prevailing market conditions. They only know few information. The adequate information is not provided, because consumers, producers protect that information, hide that information, so that they can use it profitably to achieve more market share. Oligopoly firms do not provide full information to prevent competitors from using it against them to win market share. We know that if one firm under oligopoly can simply display its information, that can lead to competitors also using that information against that oligopoly to gain more market share. So they don't share their their information. As much as oligopolies watch each other closely, they do not disclose complete information about each other, which results to lack of trust within the market. So firms under oligopoly do not trust each other, because information is hidden. They don't provide the full information about their operations. So that will lead to one firm using its information as a treasure to ensure that it becomes more profitable than competitors. So they don't compete over the price because of this matter. They then compete over the non-price competition strategies. The market information continues. Oligopolies actively compete with each other to gain market share, to gain more market share, and in their quest to do so, they may hide information. It is very important for firm under oligopoly to hide its information, because if it displays it, it can be used against it to profit other businesses. Oligopoly therefore deliberately withhold certain information from the market to retain its competitive edge. So the oligopolies will always ensure that it hide information to other competitors, so that it can continue with dominating the market if ever the firm is regarded to be a dominant firm. Disclosing information will result to competitors using it again, it to gain more market share. If ever one firm discloses information, other firms can use that information to gain more market share from the competitor, which is bad. The collusion occurs. So collusion is it's very common amongst oligopolies. It occurs when suppliers within the market manipulate the price and quantities that they sell in order to maximize the profit. So collusion occurs when firms are either in agreement or not in agreement, but they copy each other's strategies to keep up with their prices and profits, avoiding losing their market share. So they collude either explicitly and implicitly. Collusive behavior reduces market competition and increase inefficiency. If ever firms are involved in collusion, they become less competitive because they know that they don't have much competitors anymore. So that will be resulting to less competition and also will be exploiting consumers to high prices within the market if ever the collusion is there and remain as the main thing. So firms will be making joint decisions which will lead to competitors, to consumers not having more choices within the market. It occurs in two ways, namely implicit and explicit. So if we talk about implicit collusion, we refer to hidden collusion. Explicit collusion, we refer to overt collusion. Stealing or copying competitors' ideas is referred as implicit collusion. If one firm steals information or ideas from other firms, that is regarded to be an implicit collusion because no one can prove that the information was taken. No one can prove it's a hidden thing. There's no formal agreement between firms, but one firm simply steals another firm's idea. Formal agreement on price and production arrangement is referred to be an explicit collusion. If firms can meet and have discussions on what we call on the pricing and production techniques, that can be seen as what we call an explicit collusion, which occurs when firms have a formal agreement about the pricing and production techniques. Efficiencies are achieved. Are not achieved. So oligopolies experience a productive inefficiency because it is motivated to produce at the higher cost and restrict output. Oligopolies will always do this. They will lower the price to increase the output and increase the price to decrease the output. So that leads to them to become more inefficiency. Collusion increase market inefficiency since agreements consider profits of producers and at the expense of consumers. They always increase inefficiency because for whatever they do, whatever they do under oligopoly, they ensure that they increase their profits and then at the expense of the consumer. So other consumers will be in need of the product, but they go without the product because firms are asking for high prices, which cannot be afforded by consumers. Allocative inefficiency is experienced in the oligopoly because firms are not motivated to produce the optimum output desired by consumers. You find that consumers are in need of more product, but producers are supplying or producing and supplying less, so they don't produce and supply at the optimum or maximum output. Oligopoly rarely meet consumer demand at the required time. They don't provide goods at the right time, right quantity, and right quality. Because of what? Because of inefficiencies that exist. And then we have a profit and loss. Oligopolies in the oligopoly short-run profits can be abnormal when average revenues are more than or greater than average cost. It's also possible for oligopoly firm to make economic loss in the short run if the average cost exceed average revenue. So we know that the firm can mainly make the profit if the revenues are more than the cost, but the firm can make economic loss if its costs are more than its revenues or income received. The oligopoly maintains its economic profits in the long run because it is difficult for new firms to enter the market. So oligopoly firms will always enjoy their profits in the long run because other firms are prohibited from entering the market. So existing firms will always enjoy a high level of profits within the market. Then we have a kinked demand curve. If we talk about the kinked demand curve, refer to the downward sloping demand curve that is faced by two segments, namely relative elastic and relatively inelastic. So oligopoly market is faced by the kinked demand curve. The kinked demand curve is demand curve with two segments. Named the top segment is relatively elastic, which indicate consumers are quick or very sensitive to the price change if one firm also change the price. And then the bottom segment is relatively inelastic, which indicate that consumers are less sensitive to the decrease in price if all producers have lowered their prices. So let's say this firm in the market is lowering its prices to try and get more market share. Then other producers decide to steal the idea by lowering their prices too. That can lead to the firm that lowered the price initially not to gain the profit it wanted to gain because all other firms in the market have decided to lower their prices too. So that means the firm will then be making economic loss or not making abnormal profits because of decisions made by other firms. Consumers find no incentive to leave their suppliers for other competitors. If ever there is no brand loyalty, consumers will always be willing to ship to another firm if ever prices are cheap in that firm. However, they find it difficult to ship to other firms because of the brand loyalty. They believe that the brand for this firm is very much good, so they cannot buy from any other supplier. So this one is the kinked demand curve. Top segment, bottom segment. So top segment is relatively elastic, and then bottom segment is relatively inelastic. So why is the top segment relatively elastic? It is because consumers are very sensitive to price change. If ever one firm decides to increase the price, then consumers become less sensitive to price change. Price decrease if all other firms are lowering their prices too. So we continue. We are on the types of collusion. So we are discussing in detail the collusion concept. So we have collusion concept, effects of collusion, and types of collusion. So the concept of collusion in detail. Collusion refers to the combinations, conspiracies, or agreement among sellers to raise or fix prices and reduce output in order to increase their profits. Firms will collude because they want to keep up with their profit. If you come across the question asking you, why do firms collude under oligopoly? They want to keep up with high profits or abnormal profits. Collusion does not necessarily have to involve explicit agreement or communication between firms. It doesn't mean that they must always communicate. There's something that we call tacit or hidden collusion. In oligopoly market, firms tend to be interdependent in their prices and output decisions, so that the market of each firm impact on and result to a counter response by the other firms. Firms under oligopoly are very much interdependent or linked to one another. A decision by one firm will always affect decisions to be made by other firms or competitors. In such circumstances, oligopoly firms may take their rivals' actions into account and coordinate their actions as if they were the cartel without any explicit or an overt collusion. Firms cannot collude maybe explicitly directly, but they can form what we call a price, they can form what we call the cartel or the group or association of firms, so that they can be able to make joint decisions. Such coordinated behavior is often referred to as tacit collusion or what we call conscious or parallelism. So if ever firms are not discussing anything, but they copy each other's ideas implicitly, that can be regarded to be a tacit collusion or hidden collusion or conscious parallelism. No business in an oligopoly can ever be certain about the reaction and behavior of competitors. Firms do not trust each other. They act interdependent because they don't trust each other. One firm can pretend to be making a business, however, you find that the decision that was made is wrong, or the decision that was explained to be made is wrong, or is not the profitable decision. So one firm can fake a decision. If a firm is faking the decision, it is trying to see that how will the competitors be reacting to that particular decision. So they don't trust each other, because they play what we call a game theory here. That game theory can result to other firms being prisoners. We have something that we call a prisoner's dilemma under oligopoly, whereby the firm that failed, that loses the game is known as a prisoner. So they create a prisoner's dilemma, causing, explaining that firms are much interdependent. However, they don't trust each other. One firm make a decision, they must be sure that the decision has been made, and they must be aware of possible effects of that decision. So you can provide your info, you find that other firms will be copying the information. Other firms are even advertising to find that as they advertise wrongly, because they are trying to make their goods appear more superior, and while those goods are not even superior, they are inferior. So under oligopolists, firms do not trust each other. As much as they are interdependent, they want to look to each other very close to see if decisions by one firm will be profitable or not, so that they can be able to react. Like, it is very important for them to react on the decision made by other firms to avoid losing their market share or consumer. In the effort to eliminate uncertainties, firms often collude. So for firms to eliminate uncertainties, they collude through what we call implicit or explicit, so that they can avoid uncertainty that can exist under oligopolist market. Collusion takes place within an industry when rival companies cooperate for the mutual benefit. Conspiracy usually involves an agreement between two or more sellers or firms to take actions to suppress competition between the sellers in the market. Because competition among sellers can provide consumers with low prices, conspiracy agreements increase the price consumers pay for goods. So in this case, they ensure that they keep their prices high. Remember, if ever there's more competition, there will be lower prices. So they ensure in this case that they have less competition, and then they keep their prices very, very high so that consumers will be buying and they will be making a lot of profit. Because of this harm to consumers, it is against antitrust laws to fix prices by agreement between producers, so participants must keep it a secret. So we have implicit collusion and the explicit collusion. Remember, I said implicit is a hidden collusion. Explicit is an overt collusion. So the hidden collusion, also known as a tacit collusion. So the implicit collusion occurs under price leadership, and then the explicit occurs under what? Explicit occurs under what we call the cartel. Remember, cartels, I said that's an association between firms within the industry. Implicit collusion happens when a group of firms manipulate the marketplace through interdependent actions, but without coming to a formal agreement. So implicitly, there is no formal agreement, but firms are copying each other's decisions. Competitors do not necessarily meet to make the price and production arrangement. They copy decisions of their rivals. So they copy from their competitors under oligopoly instead of making a formal agreement. That is known to be an implicit collusion or tacit collusion. Implicit collusion occurs through the price leadership process. What is meant by the price leadership? Price leadership means that one firm is responsible to set the price on behalf of all other firms within the industry. The largest firm within the industry determines the price on behalf of all other firms within the market. Implicit collusion continues. Implicit collusion, in this case, this is the type of collusion that is not transparent. It is hidden. No one can simply prove that firms did copy each other's strategies. It is therefore referred as a hidden collusion or tacit collusion. There is no proper agreement that takes place. Firms will be copying each other's decisions so that they can obtain high profit. Implicit collusion is difficult to trace because competitors reactions do not show evidence of deliberate discussion. So there is no simply evidence of a discussion or a meeting, because firms will simply copy each other's strategies without any formal agreement. So it cannot be proven that it occurred, the implicit collusion. For example, in the washing powder industry, one firm brought the smart packaging. Then at the later stage, rivals adopted the smart packaging without any formal agreement. It is indeed correct. We talk about washing powder industry. One brought about the smart packaging, moving away from the box. Other firms copied that strategies by implementing the smart packaging. That alone is what we call an implicit collusion, because there is no formal agreement between firms, but firms are copying each other's strategies. And then here we move, how does implicit collusion occur? So let's check the process in which implicit collusion can occur. Implicit collusion occurs through the price leadership. So one firm will be setting the price on behalf of all other firms, and other firms will follow without any formal agreement or discussion. Okay, we continue. The price leadership referred to a situation where prices and price changes established by the dominant firm or firm are accepted by other firms as the leader, and which firms which other firms in the industry adopt and follow. So one firm will set the price and other firms will copy the price. That simply means that there will be no formal agreement between firms. However, firms will be copying each other's strategies without any formal agreement. So one firm is seen to be a price leader because the firm has more power to set the price that can be followed by competitors within the market. The price leader is normally the firm that is large enough to have at least 32% market share within the industry. Normally, it becomes the firm that is having more market share within the industry, so that firm can be named as a price leader. The price leader is referred as a dominant firm. So remember, a dominant firm is a firm that is having at least 32% market shares in the industry. However, there should be clarity. The price leader can also occur not because of dominant position in the market, can also occur because the firm can understand and study market forces or market signals very smart and easy than other competitors. So that firm can be seen also as a price leader because the firm understands very well market signals. So that means firms or competitors normally bank on this firm to set the price or make a decision, then they will be copying because they know the firm is always making right moves or profitable decisions. So that firm can also be known as a price leader, as a minor as it can be. But if the firm can be making very good decisions in terms of pricing and production techniques, it can be seen as a price leader also within the market without being a dominant firm. So the price leader can either be a firm that is having more market share in the industry, or can be a firm that can understand market signals more than any other firm within the industry. So those are two ways in which price leadership is determined. So you can come across the question maybe to how is the price leadership okay, or how does it okay? How is the price leader being determined under oligopoly? It can be determined because of dominant position in the market, or can be determined because of the firm is able to make a profitable decision than any other firm. It understands market signals very well than any other firm within the industry. So that firm, even though it can be a minor firm, but it can also be regarded as a price leader because of the skill owned by those people to make well-informed decisions that will be profitable enough in the market. So the type of price leadership, which have a barometric price leadership, collusive price leadership, as well as the dominant price leadership. So let's check what is meant by barometric price leadership. So the barometric price leadership model occurs when the particular firm is more adept than others at identifying shifts in applicable market forces, such as change in production costs. So this one can be a price leader not because the firm is having more market share, but because the firm can understand market forces or market signals very, very well than the competitors. So that kind of the price leadership is known as barometric price leadership. The firm does not have dominant position. However, the firm can understand and interpret market signals very well than other competitors. This allows the firm to respond to market forces more efficiently. For instance, the firm may initiate the price change. So if the firm understands very, very well, the firm will always make price changes on its own. Then other firms will decide to copy the strategy because they trust this firm due to the skill of making proper decisions that are very much profitable. It is possible for a firm with a small market share to act as a barometric price leader if it's good producer and if the firm is attend to trends in the market and other producers may follow its lead. So if the firm is too good to understand market signals or market forces, it can be a price leader without having a dominant position. Then other firms can follow the firm behind. The collusive price leadership. Collusive price leadership occurs as a result of an explicit or implicit collusion. So there's an agreement among firms or dominant firms to keep their prices in mutual alignment. That's when firms now that are having more sales or market share decide to keep the price within the particular range together. It can either be discussed or might not be discussed, but that's when firms keep the price within the certain range that are dominating in the industry to ensure that their profits are relatively high. Smaller firms within the market are effectively forced into into following the price change initiated by dominant firms. Obviously, smaller firms do not have much control or influence in the market because they are being dominated. So the dominant firm or price leader is the one that will be followed by competitors. Smaller firms will not have much say because they have no much influence over the market or the pricing or production technique. The dominant price leadership. So the dominant price leadership model occurs when one firm controls the vast majority of the market share in the industry. That's when the firm is having more market share than any other firms in the industry. That firm is a dominant firm. So that firm will be copied. Its strategies will be copied by other firms because it's a dominant price leader. That's why we have a dominant price leadership. Within the industry, there are other smaller firms that provide the same product or service as the leading firm. So within this industry, we do have some smaller firms that are providing the particular product, which is similar to that one of the leading firm. But the leading firm or dominant firm is the one that will be setting prices, and other firms will be copying the strategy, or there will be formal agreement over the price under dominant price leadership. A dominant price leadership model is sometimes referred to as the partial monopoly. So the price leader, if a firm is a price leader under oligopoly, it makes decisions within the industry. So it can be seen as a partial monopoly because other firms have no much say. This firm is having almost the full control in the market. Other firms are not having much say. So it becomes the partial monopoly. We say partially, it's a monopoly, even though the firm is not the monopoly. In this case, we can talk about one business under communication industry, the multi-choice. The industry is having much control in there, to the point that as much as there are competitors, but partially we can say it's a monopoly because all other channels, especially for the television, are dependent on it to be provided. So in that case, it can be a partial monopoly because it is having much control or influence within the industry, while other competitors are not having any control, but they depend on it to ensure that the viewership is there for for themselves. So that can be a partial monopoly because of the price leader or dominant position. In this type of model, the price leader might engage in predatory pricing, which refers to the practice of lowering the price to levels that make it impossible for smaller firms or competing firms to remain in the business. So to push away other firms under this kind of dominant price leadership, the firm can simply lower its prices drastically to ensure that competitors do not stand a chance to continue by producing goods within this particular industry. So they will be driven out by this firm, which can lower the prices to be too much lower, to the point that producers find it unprofitable to compete with this firm due to the fact that it is selling at the lowest possible cost. Normally, these are firms that are faced by economies of scale. And then explicit collusion. Explicit collusion is a formal agreement between firms within the same industry based on prices and production techniques or output. This occurs when two or more firms in the same industry agree to make joint decisions to keep up with their profits. So in this case, firms will be agreeing to say, let's increase the price and put it so much. So if ever they increase the price and put it at the highest level, that can be seen as an explicit collusion, because there's been an agreement between these firms within the same industry to say, let's change the price. So there's a formal agreement that is in place. Explicit collusion involves the creation of cartels where firms within the same industry create a moat wall of competitors so that they can dominate the market. So in this case, that's when firms decide on creating cartels. Remember, we said cartel is an association of firms within the same industry. So firms can decide to formulate cartels so that they will be discussing price fixing and production techniques within that particular industry to keep up with that dominant position. Explicit collusion can be traced. It is an illegal behavior that deliberately limits market competition. It is traceable. There is evidence that firms did meet to discuss the pricing. So that's why we say it's an explicit collusion or an overt collusion. It is traceable, unlike the hidden collusion. It easily occurs through the formation of cartels. So firms can find it easy to collude through cartels, whereby they meet through some discussions and then they end up using the part of collusion, whereby they can fix the price or change production techniques on their own. So that alone, the cartels can result to the creation of an explicit collusion, because firms do meet and discuss, and that can be traced. A cartel is an explicit collusion agreement whereby oligopolies work together to fix the price and determine the market share, advertising strategies, and product development. It is formed through association or associating competitors to make common decisions about pricing and the output level. So firms in the under cartel, they form the cartels, they meet for discussions, which can lead to the explicit collusion. A cartel is a group of independent market participants who collude with each other in order to improve their profits and determine the market. However, what is the effect of these cartels? Whenever firms are involved in cartels, that will be resulting to consumers being exposed to high level of prices, because when the firms are colluding, they always charge high prices for them to keep up with their profits within the market. Cartels are usually associations in the same sphere of businesses, and thus all alliance of rivals. So the cartel normally associates firms within the same industry. It does not bring together firms that are from different industries, because as they meet, they are selling almost the same product or differentiated product, which actually need them to reduce competition against each other. Hence, they are involved in cartels. And then the effects of collusion. So collusion limit competition. The bad effect, it limit competition and leave consumers with less market choices. If ever firms are colluding, maybe they are forming illegal measures. If firms are forming measures, that means the consumers are finding themselves with less competition in the market. So it will be difficult for them to get competitive prices. So they will be exploited to high prices because of what? Because of the collusion. It basically drives prices high and businesses try to keep their profits high. So the price will be too high, which will always be a disadvantage to the consumer because they will be finding goods too expensive. Collusion can make firms lazy and avoid innovation and efforts to increase productivity or market efficiency. So there will be market inefficiency because of the collusion. Firms find no reason to be innovative and creative if they know that they are together as one. They collude to make decisions. Even if the firm is not innovative enough, the firm will be a part of collusion in that particular industry, which will lead to it being less innovative and less creative in the industry. Collusion exploits consumers to high prices since competitors reach mutual agreement. Like I've mentioned before, it will lead to consumers being exploited to high prices because firms will be having the mutual agreement. It benefits firms at the expense of consumers. Firms are the main beneficiaries under collusion at the expense of consumers because they fix the price, meaning they keep their prices too high, which affect the consumer negatively. They limit the consumer choice by getting together to be one firm, maybe on the measures, which is bad because as firms become one firm, that will mean the competition has been reduced and then choices for consumers have been also reduced. And then let's check the graphs for the oligopoly. We have the kinked demand curve, we have supernormal profit, we have a normal profit, and then we have also an economic loss. Remember, I said the kinked demand curve, the demand curve that is downward sloping with two segments, namely the top segment and the bottom segment. So the top segment indicates that firms are very much sensitive to price change. That's why it's relatively elastic. The bottom segment indicates that firms are become less sensitive to, consumers become less sensitive to price change if ever all firms have lowered their prices. So remember, under oligopoly, firms are very much interdependent to one another. If one firm decides to increase the price, other firms are not going to increase their prices because they are avoiding to lose market share to the competitor. And then, so they will keep their prices down, which will lead to the firm losing its market share to other competitors that are selling their product at the lower cost. And then that is creating the top segment. And then we have a bottom segment, which is relatively inelastic. This segment indicates that firms are very much, consumers are not sensitive to price change. They will not react quickly to the price decrease if all other firms are lowering their prices too. So oligopoly market is faced by the kinked demand curve. So be aware that the kinked demand curve is downward sloping though. Kinked demand curve is demand curve with two segments. So the top segment is relatively elastic, and which indicate that consumers are very quick to react or are very sensitive to price increase if other firms in the industry are selling at the lower price. We have the bottom segment, which is relatively inelastic, which indicates that consumers are less sensitive to the decrease in price if all producers have lowered their prices. If one firm lowered the price and others do the same, there is no need for consumers to shift or move away from the initial firm because it has already lowered its own prices. So it gives consumers cheap prices or competitive prices. Consumers find no incentive to leave their suppliers for other competitors. So consumers will not be leaving their suppliers to another supplier because of lower price, because all other firms will be selling their goods at the lower cost. One firm decrease the price, other firms lower their prices. The market share will be maintained in that particular industry because because firms become what? Become consumers become less sensitive to the change in price or to the lowered prices if all other firms have decided to copy the strategy of lowering the price. So then create the bottom segment, which is relatively inelastic. So here we go, we have our top segment and the bottom segment. That's a demand curve, which is kinked. And then this is the top segment, which is elastic. Bottom segment, which is inelastic or relatively inelastic. That's a bottom segment. So let's check this one. If ever the product is sold at 50 Rand, consumers are demanding 30 units. So they're demanding more. But if ever this firm decide to increase the price from 30 to 90 rand, what is going to happen? Then consumers will find themselves, other firms won't increase their prices because they're avoiding losing their consumers. So consumers are not going to demand more of this particular product. They will then demand less, meaning the quantity sold by this firm will be decreasing, meaning consumers will be leaving this firm to demand from other competitors that are selling the same product, which will make them to be very sensitive to price increase because other firms are keeping their price down. On the bottom segment, check the bottom segment. This is the one. It is relatively inelastic. Why? It is inelastic because if this firm decides to lower the price from 50 to 20, what happens? Other firms have also decided to lower their prices too from 50 to 20 so that they won't be losing their market share or profit. So this results to this firm not making enough profit that it wanted to make due to the fact that consumers became more sensitive. So when the became less sensitive, when the producer lower the price and other firms lower the prices too on the same margin, consumers have no incentive to leave their supplier to another supplier due to the fact that these goods remain being sold at the same price. So there will be no need for the consumer to move from one seller to another. So consumers become less sensitive to the decrease in price if all other firms are selling at the same price on the bottom segment. But on the top segment, consumers become very much sensitive to the increase in price if other firms are keeping their prices down. Remember, there is no need for consumers to move from their supplier to the new supplier that is selling the product at the higher cost, leaving the supplier that is selling the product at the lower cost. So that creates the kinked demand curve. Remember, in this case, we have this 90 rand, which is known as individual firm price. The firm will be using this price on its own. And then this 50 rand is known as a collusive price because this is the price that was either agreed upon or that was copied from one firm that maybe is a price leader. And then this other price that is down there is an individual price or individual firm price. One firm lower the price, then other firms will be following because they avoid losing their market share in this gap. So we have a kinked demand curve which is having two segments, namely the top segment and the bottom segment. Top segment is relatively elastic, bottom segment relatively inelastic. Give the reason why. Top segment is elastic because producers, if one firm increase the price, other firms will not be increasing their prices too, which will be leading to consumers becoming very sensitive to the increase in price because other firms are selling at the lower cost the same product. And then the bottom segment relatively inelastic. Why? Because if one firm lower the price, as much as the firms are always avoiding the price war, but if one firm lower the price, other firms will also be lowering their prices to avoid losing their market share. So by doing so, consumers find no incentive from leaving their ordinary suppliers to the new supplier because all firms are selling the product at the same price. So that creates the bottom segment, which is relatively inelastic. So that is the indicator of relatively elastic and relatively inelastic. So explaining the top segment. The top segment is the elastic part of the kinked demand curve. So the price changes and output have a huge impact on the creation of this segment. And then also, as much as the oligopolist firms are very much interdependent, their actions are not always guaranteed. If an individual competitor increases the price, reactions are more guaranteed if the price output decision is made through cartels. So we know if ever there are cartels, then there's a formal agreement through associations. If one firm increases the price, competitors are likely to keep their prices low because they are avoiding losing their market share. And then we continue. The market share is the important aspect of oligopolies for them to achieve high profit. So it is very important for the firm under oligopoly to have more sales and more consumers because that will allow the firm to have more profits. So by keeping their prices low, they avoid losing their market share. So they won't be increasing their prices too high to avoid losing their market share, which will mean consumers now will be very sensitive to the price increase if other firms are still selling their goods at the lower cost, which will be creating top segment. The individual firm with high prices loses consumers to competitors that are selling at the lower prices, meaning consumers now will be shifting to buy from those firms that are selling at the lower cost. Consumers react quickly to high prices in the oligopoly because there is a competition to provide them with alternatives. So the firms are there to provide competitive prices. So if firms remain there to provide them with competitive prices, but one firm increase the price, consumers won't find it necessary to demand goods that are expensive in the same market while there are also goods that are cheap. So for that sake, that will be resulting to consumers becoming very sensitive by demanding less in that firm and demand more to the firms that are still selling goods at the lower cost. This results in the decrease in the quantity demanded with a greater margin, which creates the top elastic segment of the kinked demand curve. So in that case, consumers will react very much quickly. They will be sensitive. So if you can check your quantity, there will be a huge change in quantity demanded. There will be a decrease in quantity demanded on the firm that has increased the price. Then with that will mean consumers have found an opportunity to buy from other firms that are selling the product at the lower cost within the same market. The bottom segment of the demand curve. Price war is a common feature of oligopoly. So firms are always avoiding to compete over the price because they are avoiding the price war. So the firms are tactical. They lower their prices to gain more market share from competitors. So remember, whenever they get more sales and more consumers, that means they have stolen consumers from other firms or competitors. So what do? One firm will decide to lower the price so that it can gain more market share. However, other firms might be watching the firm very close in terms of decision making. So what are they going to do? They will also lower their price with the same margin. By doing so, that will result to the firm that lowered the price initially not gaining the market share it wanted to gain. Any profit that has been planned and expected will be lost immediately because all firms in the industry are selling the product at the lower cost. So firm A lowered the price to try to steal consumers from firm B, and then firm B discover that and lower their prices too with the same margin. The consumers for firm B, for firm B, will find no importance of migrating from or of moving from the firm B to firm A because these firms are still selling their product at the same price because the strategy of lowering the price has been copied by the competitor, avoiding losing its market share. Therefore, consumers will not be floating or moving from one firm to another because they are still having the common price that is asked for on goods and services. Lowered prices might create an environment that is non-profitable for competitors. If ever firms under oligopoly decide to lower the price, that can lead to firms not making enough total revenues. Remember, as one firm lowers the price, other firms might decide to lower their prices too, which will lead to the loss of profit and loss of total revenue. So they always avoid competing over the price and use the non-price competition strategies because by lowering their prices, that will lead to the price war. As the price war happens, they will be losing their revenues because one firm lowered the price, other firms do the same to avoid losing their profit. However, oligopoly firms quickly react to protect their profits if one firm has made a profitable decision. If one firm makes a profitable decision within the market, other firms will react immediately to avoid losing their consumers by copying the same profitable decision through what we call an implicit or tacit or hidden collusion. To protect their profits and market share, oligopolies implicitly collude. So they collude implicitly without any formal discussion by stealing each other's ideas that are profitable, by decreasing their prices too, which result to the loss of any expected gain by the competitor. So if firms are lowering their prices to at the same margin with the competitor, the expected profit or gain will be lost immediately, which will lead to the firm not getting much total revenues. That's why firms under oligopoly will always avoid to compete over the price, but instead they compete using the non-price competition strategies because the competition over the price creates a price war and it creates non-profitable environment for the firms under oligopoly if they compete over the price. We continue with bottom segment. If one competitor decreases the price to earn more market share and profits, competitors will do the same. This creates the war zone for prices and result to the loss of expected profit or gain. So it will prevent the price war over the price war in the market, which is known as a war zone here. And that will lead to the loss of any expected profit because firms will be fighting over the price. You lower the price, I lower the price. Do I get the profit that I plan to achieve? No, I'm not going to get that profit. So that will be the bad decision. So firms then choose not to compete using the price in this kind of the market. If all firms are selling at the similar prices under pure oligopoly, consumers do not find any incentive for floating in the market. If all firms are lowering, one firm lower the price, other firms copy by lowering the price, then there is no need for consumers to float from one firm to another because they are all, or these firms are all selling at the same price. So that will lead to any expected profit or gain being lost immediately by initial firm that decided to lower the price. Consumers' reactions tend to be less sensitive to the decrease in price if the entire market has adopted the same price. If one firm lower the price and all other firms lower the price with the same margin, that will mean consumers will be less sensitive to the decrease in price because all firms in the market have decreased the price with the same margin, even though it was not discussed. So that alone is a part of the implicit collusion or price leadership that will be creating the bottom segment. Bottom segment then is created indicating that consumers are less sensitive to the decrease in price. They are very sensitive. They are not very sensitive to the decrease in price due to the fact that all firms are selling the product at the similar or common price within the market. There is no need or no incentive for the consumers to float from one industry to another because the price is similar. Products are similar. So moving to another firm will be having no incentive to these consumers. That creates a bottom segment which is relatively inelastic. So it creates the bottom inelastic segment of the kinked demand curve. So the kinked demand curve is created being inelastic compared to the top segment, which is relatively elastic, indicating that consumers become very sensitive to the increase in price if other firms are selling the product at the lower cost. But the second one, which is bottom, indicate that consumers are less sensitive to the decrease in price if all other firms have decided to lower the price. So the top one firm increase the price, other firms become reluctant to increase the price. So the firm lose market share to those other firms that are selling at the lower cost. The second one firm lower the price, other firms copy the strategy by lowering the price. That creates this bottom segment, which is relatively inelastic because consumers are not sensitive to the decrease in price if all other firms are selling the product at the lower cost. Profit and loss. Oligopoly firms are believed to be making supernormal profits or economic profit in the short run and the long run. So they make this kind of the profit because they have a power to manipulate the market by forming cartels so that they can keep their prices high. Then consumers will find themselves without a choice. Whatever price producers are asking for will always ensure that they achieve supernormal profits. Relatively high market prices and less competition increase opportunity to keep profits high. Remember, under oligopoly, there are few large firms and many buyers. So that can allow firms to ensure that they keep up with their high profits if ever they have less competition. However, long-run profits decrease because the market entry is not completely blocked like in the monopoly. The market is not completely blocked. Firms that are having enough capital can still enter the market to compete. Some firms can still enter the market to increase the competition if ever patents are not there to block the end of new business through legislation. Efficient and dominant firms have power to maintain the high profits in both short run and long run because they dictate market behavior. So oligopolies within the with high production costs find the competition hard if they have to adopt determined prices by firms with economies of scale. So in this kind of, in this kind of the market, you'll find that other firms are having economies of scale, others are having diseconomies of scale. Those that are having diseconomies of scale, they produce less goods at the high cost per unit, which becomes a challenge for new firms. Which becomes a challenge for them because those that are faced by economies of scale produce more goods at the lower cost per unit. So in that case, they produce high quantity at the lower cost and sell at the lower cost. So if you are producing at the diseconomies of scale, you find it difficult to compete with those firms that are faced by economies of scale because they are always having an advantage over the lower cost of production. This creates a condition of economic loss or normal profit. So firms that are faced by the issue of diseconomies of scale can find their profits being reduced from economic profits to normal profits or economic loss under oligopoly because they are competing with firms that are faced by economies of scale. So those firms maybe are dominant firms in the market. They set the price, then we copy the price. By doing so, we find it difficult to make the profit or to maintain high profits. Supernormal profit is achieved if average revenues exceed the average cost, or total revenues exceed total cost. So we mean AR is more than AC, or TR is more than TC. Then in that case, the firm will be making economic profit or supernormal profit. Economic loss prevail if average cost, or AC, exceed average revenues, or total cost exceed total revenues, meaning AC is more than AR or TC is more than TR. That will be creating what we call economic loss. Then normal profit will be achieved when the average revenues are equal to the average cost, or total revenues are equal to the total cost. Then AR equal to AC, TR equal to TC. Then that means the firm under oligopoly is making a normal profit. So here we have the graph that indicates economic profit or supernormal profit. So after having our demand curve that is kinked, we have our MR that is cutting in there. You can see there is MR down there. And then also in the oligopoly, like in the monopoly, AR equals to the average revenues are equal to the demand curve, but MR is not equals to what we call average revenues because of the downward sloping demand curve. Remember, for the firm under oligopoly to increase the output, it must always lower its prices. To decrease the output, it must always increase its price. That results to the MR always remaining lower than what we call AR. However, they are only equal on the top there on your left where they start, but going down the split in between, then AR is always above MR. Then we have our marginal cost there. So that's a point where we maximize the profit. That's when marginal cost equal to the marginal revenue. And then that's point E. There you have our economic profit indicated there. How do we see that? We see with average cost. There is our AC. Our AC, you can see that is turning below our AR. AR is just above there. So our AC is turning down there, meaning our costs are 7, our revenues are 100. So in that case, we can say the firm is making economic profit under oligopoly. Then the same graph comes in. So a point E, this point indicates the profit maximizing. Is the profit maximization point where MR equals to MC. Shaded area indicates economic profit. Average revenues exceed average cost. Then the firm is making economic profit. AC turns below. You can see AC is turning below AR there. So meaning we have the profit of 1,500 if we use AR minus 80 times 2, which is 100 minus 70 times 20 is 1,000. Then we have economic loss graph there. So our AR is already then in MR. Then we have our marginal cost. Then our MC is labeled. Then there is a point of profit maximum, loss minimization point where MR equals to MC since it's economic loss. Then that's point E. Then we have our AC. Our AC is turning slightly above AR. You can see that our AR is here. AC is turning above, meaning our costs are more than our revenues. Our revenues are 50 along here, but our costs are 200. Then the firm is making economic loss. That is our AC. Then shaded area indicating economic loss there. And then we see the graph being explained. So point E is the loss minimization point in there, where MR equal to MC. Shaded area indicates economic loss. Average cost exceed average revenue. Then the firm is making economic loss because we say AR minus AC times 2. AC is 200, AR is 50. So AC turns above AR. Then we'll say in calculation, 50 minus 200. This 50 minus this 200 times 90. We get negative 13,500. Then the firm is therefore making economic loss in this case. Then we have a normal profit. So in this case, that's when the firm is not making a profit, neither a loss under the oligopoly. Our average revenues and demand are already there. There is our marginal revenue set. So we have our what we call marginal cost. So there is a point of intersection there. After MC equals to MR. So that's a point which is called the profit maximization point. And then our AC is turning there. You can see that AC is not turning either above or below. It's turning along the what we call the average revenue. For its sake, the firm is then making what we call a normal profit. The firm is not making a profit, neither a loss. However, according to the current examination guideline, there is no emphasis on profits and loss made by the business. There's no emphasis on the graphs made by the business. On the graph for profit and loss made by the business under oligopoly. The main thing that is emphasized in the current examination guideline is basically on what? It is basically on the total, the kinked demand curve. They will be asking you, why will the firm be reluctant to lower the price or increase the price under oligopoly, where you will need to calculate maybe for 8 marks and explain why will the firm be reluctant to increase or lower the price. Also, they can question you about the bottom segment and top segment of the demand curve to say why is the demand curve for oligopoly kinked for 8 marks maybe. We know that it is kinked because of the market interdependence. We have a collusive price, individual firm price. If one firm increases the price, firm might be reluctant to increase the price because they don't trust each other. They are avoiding losing their market share. So by doing so, the firm that have increased the price will lose its consumers to the competitors. Then consumers will be very sensitive to the increase in price if other firms are still selling the same product at the lower cost in the market. And then they want why we have this other bottom segment. Okay, before we answer that, the firms will not be increasing their price also because by increasing the price, they lose market share and lose total revenues. They won't be decreasing their prices too because by lowering the price, they will be getting less total revenues. They will be losing their revenues and profits because of lowering the price. So in that case, firms will always be reluctant to lower the price. What do? You have to calculate then your total revenues for the collusive price, and then the increased price and lowered price. Normally, the collusive price will always give you high total revenues, which will be giving you the reasoning factor to say, why will firms not increase their price? They won't be increasing their price or decrease their price because by shifting the price either high or down, that will lead to them losing their total revenues, while the collusive price is giving them what we call the maximum total revenues. So that's our AC. Then the graph is explained in there. A point E is a profit maximization modifier, MR equal to MC. Average revenues are equal to the average cost. You can see our AR is 300 and then AC is also 300. So AC turns along or on AR. So the profit equal to AR minus AC times 2, which is 300 minus 300 times 120, which is the quantity. Then we get 0 in there because the firm is breaking even. It's not making a profit, neither a loss. Remember, normal profit refers to the minimum earnings that prevent the firm from leaving the market. Then we move to the next section, which is the non-price competition strategies. So the question can be, how do firms under oligopolies increase their sales? How can they increase their market share? How can they compete effectively without losing the price? Remember, firms under oligopoly are always avoiding to compete over the price because they avoid the price war. Firms under oligopoly are always very much interdependent to one another because they don't trust each other. If one firm is making a profitable decision, that can lead to the firm losing its market share or consumers and profits to another firm, even total revenues. Therefore, they watch each other very close and they don't trust each other within the market. So for them to compete effectively, they decide to use what we call the collusion. They collude either implicitly or explicitly, whereby they will be making common decisions, either through discussion, which is explicit collusion or cartels, or through what we call without discussion, copying each other's decision without any formal agreement, which can be implicit collusion or tacit collusion or hidden collusion, which is a part of price leadership process. So by doing so, they're trying to avoid using the price competition. They use the non-price competition strategies. So some of them under oligopoly can be, they can operate for long hours to ensure that they obtain more consumers and more profit. They can also have, what we call extra hour services. They can also do door-to-door delivery. For instance, if you buy maybe a car, it can be delivered. You create a card online for the particular bank, they deliver it. So those things will make consumers to be more interested in that part of kind of the business. Also doing the business online, instead of going to the shop, you simply do every transaction online, then the car will be delivered. That alone is also the part of the strategies that are non-price competition strategies by the firms under oligopolies. Others are ensuring that they use a very much effective packaging, so that they can attract the attention of the consumer for their goods to appear more superior than inferior. Also, other firms under oligopoly, they use aggressive advertising to ensure that their goods are well known by consumers. They appear being more superior than those of the competitors. So others give what we call loyalty schemes or loyalty points, rewarding and attracting consumers to keep on calling again so that they will maintain their profits. So they create what we call a consumer loyalty by doing so. So let's look at the non-price competition strategies. So the non-price competition often occurs in oligopoly, where few firms dominate the market. So due to the lack of few firms in the market, these firms tend to compete in the non-price measure to distinguish themselves. What is meant by the non-price competition strategies? It refers to the strategies that can be used by the firm to increase their sales other than using the price. So we regard those as the non-price competition strategies. Such competition would be otherwise known as a quality competition, where oligopoly firms depend on their quality improvement intensities to survive. They don't depend on the price, but they depend on the strategy that will make them to be superior and unique from the competitor. They give quality services, they do surveys after sales, or also they advertise their goods and services they deliver. That alone can make them to be more special to the consumers. That can earn them the consumer loyalty if ever those strategies are implemented under a particular business under oligopoly. So the product differentiation, their products differ. Branding is the key to ensure that products are not similar to each other, but they are different. So product differentiation allows firms to establish its product from its competitors to win over the greater market share. Once you see the brand of the product, you can notice that this product belongs to this particular business, not to this business in this industry. Even if the product are differentiated, yes. So under differentiated oligopoly, you see products are not similar because of what? Because of product differentiation strategy. The brand alone make it easy for the consumer to notice that this product belongs to this business and this one belongs to this business. Then businesses make their decision based on the brands that are offered to them. That's what oligopolies to be unique from one another. That what makes them to earn more market share or consumers, because their brand sometimes they might be popular to consumers, resulting to the consumers then demanding more of the product than those of other competitors. The more different the product of the rival firm are, products of rival firms are, the lower the cross effect between their market with regards to both non-price and the price variables. By offering the wide range of products, firms can not only achieve economy of scope, but also able to expand their markets. So you know that within, let's say, banking sector, you have different cards that are provided by commercial banks, different accounts that are provided by commercial banks. So that expands the sales of the business, because the firm is offering variety of products. They differentiate their product for the consumer to discover a variety of goods and have variety of choices within the particular industry. Advertising. So advertising is one of the most important non-price competition strategy used by firms to inform and persuade consumers to buy their products. Remember, advertising is a very important aspect of the market, because when the product is highly advertised, it becomes popular to the eye of the consumer. Then consumers will see the product as a very important product than those of the competitors that are not highly advertised. So the product will appear more superior than those of the competitors because it is highly advertised within the market. So it will remain on the eye of the consumer, and consumers will simply march on to the market to look for the product because it is well advertised. Great awareness about the product creates the desire for the consumer to notice its importance, because it is always on the advertisement. Advertising increases the market share because product awareness is continuously created. If the market keep on popping up on TV or on radio or on the newspaper, that means all consumers or all viewers will find themselves being even interested to look at that particular advert, and they will be willing to touch the product. So that alone will be increasing the market share for that particular firm. Loyalty schemes. Most firms offer out loyalty cards in order to capture market attention and retain consumers. Normally, if ever you have a loyalty card, that means as you buy, you will be accumulating points on your purchase. Then in the future, you can use those points to buy a certain product again in that particular firm. That alone will be attracting consumers to keep on coming to buy the product. For instance, under petrol filling stations, they do that. You find that they give you a card to accumulate points. After accumulating points, then you will be calling back there again, so that you can have more points. As you have more points, you can spend them instead of spending money to fill up your petrol or your fuel. That alone is a part of the loyalty scheme, because it encourages consumers to keep on calling in the business for accumulation of their points, so that they can use them to purchase the product. These schemes improve the market share of the firm and result to the increase in market dominance. After-sales services. So after-sales services is crucial for the reputation and the brand loyalty of the firm. So in order to retain customers or consumers, they would have to provide the great after-sales service to customers. So customers would be able to return to obtain the service they demand. So in this case, also, After sales, what do? Maybe they will be calling you in a particular industry through the survey and to check if you are satisfied with the product or the service that you got or not satisfied. By doing that survey, they are trying to attract your attention to call again because they give you the good treatment that allow you to call again and it capture the attention of variety of customers within the market. The product proliferation. So product proliferation occurs when organization market many variations of the same product. You find that one product is simply split to different products to make the business of a variety of goods, while actually it's one product that has been split into different goods and services in terms of packaging or combos. So this can be done through a different color combination, product sizes, and different product uses. This produces diversity for the firm as it is able to capture the sizable portion of the market. So in this case, under product proliferation, producers will then do this. Let's say we're talking about maybe the motoring industry. You find that you choose the one brand of the automotive, and then they have different cars of different models and the brand is the same, but a year after they produce the new model, and then these cars are differing in series. So with that different, that will allow consumers to have the variety of choices within the same brand, but with differing series of cars that are offered by the business. That is regarded to the product proliferation within the market or the industry. Branding. So the product branding is the development of the distinctive brand for a given product with the intention to reach a brand target to consumers. So the branding makes the product to appear more different from those of the competitors within the market. A product branding is an essential element to consider as a part of a broader branding strategy because it gives product a life personality and all their own. So in this case, we talk about maybe different the motoring industry. We have different businesses or companies that are producing cars. So they have their own brands that make it to be, each car will be different from those of the competitors because of the brand. So branding allows the product to be unique or different from those of the competitors. So if the brand can be the same, those goods can be seen as similar. However, with the branding, goods are simply identified on the brand, which can be seen also as a trademark, being unique or different from those of the competitors. Then the consumer with the loyalty, brand loyalty, will be saying, I prefer this kind of the product. I prefer this brand over this brand. That the power of branding, it also develops the loyalty of the consumer. So after all, our lesson ends here. Just to recap, we covered here on characteristics of the oligopoly, types of the oligopoly, examples of oligopolies. And then we covered also on the kinked demand curve, which is very important for you in your next upcoming paper 2 examination. You must be able to calculate total revenues and explain why will the firm be reluctant to lower or increase its prices under oligopoly. Remember, under oligopoly, firms are very much interdependent to one another. Decision by one firm will always affect decision to be made by another firm. Therefore, it is very important for you to know that firms will always react in a manner that allows them to get more market share in the industry. If one firm is making a profitable decision, they will be forcing other firms to copy the strategy because they are avoiding losing their consumers and market share, including profits, to the competitor. That's why if one firm increases the price, other firms will not be interested to increase the price because they will lose their consumers, which will be creating the top segment of demand curve, which is the kinked demand curve. And then if one firm lower the price, firms will find it difficult not to react because they will lose their market share. So they will do the same by lowering their prices. However, under oligopoly, they've decided to use what we call the non-price competition strategies. They avoid using competition, or the price competition, because they prevent the price war. Price war will result to them having to decrease their price to the point that they don't even achieve their profits. Because when you lower the price, you lose your total revenues. You increase the price, you lose your revenues. However, selling at the collusive price will result to the firm maintaining its high profits or abnormal profits under the oligopoly. And then further, firms under the oligopoly, we know that they compete over non-price competition strategies to improve their sales. What is meant by the non-price competition strategies? Those are strategies that do not include the price in competition, but they compete using them so that they can obtain or achieve more market share over their competitors. You find that the price is similar within the same industry. However, one firm is dominating because of the strategies it uses within the market to market its goods. So there's marketing, there's advertising, there's product differentiation, proliferation, and branding. After hours services, after sales services, long hours, those are some non-price commission strategies that are used by firms under oligopolies to improve their sales and increase their profit. With that being said, I thank you, and I believe this lesson will assist you as you prepare for your upcoming June examination. See you again next week when we'll be doing what we call the monopolistic competition as well as the market failures. Thank you.